my name is Kamie, this is CrimsonReads, and welcome back to my channel. This is my second, oh my god, I'm in the middle of a book here. That's not what I meant to do. Okay, cool. This is my second video on my channel, so thank you for watching and sticking around for this long. I have a whole bunch of books here in no particular order that I like to talk about. So for this second video, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do because there's so many different ideas surrounding my mind. I have a whole list of notes of ideas, and in the thought process is sort of like getting out ideas. I watch a lot of To Be Read, but it's sort of the middle of August, and to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to meet any quotas by the end of August. So I sort of want to do a catch-up of what I've read so far in 2018 because it's been a few books. And then I thought I would go over what I'm hoping to read as of right now by the end of the year. And then if I pick anything else up along the way, I'll be sure to let you guys know. Excuse my slam onto this one book. But I have renewed my library card, so that's been really exciting. I'm happy to be able to go back and start reading again. It's so nice to be reading. Thanks everyone for all the comments you guys have left me. They have made my day, and all the new subscribers. Hello, thank you. Thank you so much. I've been wanting to do BookTube for so long now. It is awesome to finally be able to do this. I am on a new setup. I am no longer in Japan, so I don't have my art decals or my normal, my own desk and all, so I have to work around people. So yeah, I'm sort of in my living room-ish. If you see cats floating around, I'm sorry. Without further ado, let's talk about what I've read first. So what I've read in 2018, most of it's on Kindle, which I have on my iPad because I'm using my phone to film, because I can film at 1080. So that's awesome. I think I can actually film at 4K, but that exporting will take forever, to be honest, and I'm still new. So for right now, 1080p is okay, I think. Unless you guys really have a problem with my quality, in that case, please tell me. My DSLR only does it in 10-minute increments, which is really infuriating because I talk a lot, to be honest, and so I'm sorry, these are probably going to be long videos, almost always, even after editing, and hopefully I'll get better at editing too as we go. But without further ado, what I read in 2018, gotta have more stuff. Some of the stuff I'm not even reading. Okay, so right now here's my Kindle library. I have it up on my iPad. I read through, so the start of 2018, I had read Scythe and Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. I read City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I cannot pronounce her last name. She's an amazing author, though. I read The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. Oh, I read A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I think those are the books I read. Yeah. And I just finished, 2-3 days ago, I finished Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde. So, I don't want to do full reviews on all these books. I think I have down, I might want to do a Queens of Geek review. Since I just read it, it'd be cool to go through and actually talk about my views on it. I rated it a 3.5 out of 5 I sort of on Goodreads. You can't do the half marks on Goodreads, but it was a 3.5 in my mind. I thought it was a very, very good book, but it wasn't. I'm very particular, and I'm very, very, very hard to please as an avid reader, so it was a really good book, though. I do recommend reading it. So I want to actually sit down and review that myself. I also am thinking about doing a review on City of Brass. Sorry, I have my notes up over here. City of Brass, because I thought it was a really good book. I really liked it. I think I ended up rating it a 4 out of 5 stars. I need to go check my Goodreads again. I'll put a link down in my Goodreads as well if you guys want to follow me. But City of Brass was a really fascinating book. City of Brass is about this girl named Nari, who's sort of a con artist in, I think it's the 1800s in Cairo. And after some schemes backfire on her, she ends up having to flee Cairo. In which case, she ends up actually summoning Dara, who's this Deva, if I remember correctly. Yeah, a Jinn warrior, a Deva. And they sort of have to flee to this place that's pretty much the City of Brass. The name of the place is David-bad. Sorry, my summaries are going to be sort of all jotty because it's been months since I read this book. I read this back when I was in Japan. I read this when I was on the trains. really good book. You also get the perspective of the prince, which I think his name is something. Ali, yes. Ali, I think it's like Ali Zaid. It's a really long name that I can't pronounce if I'm being honest, and I'm sorry. Ali. So yeah. And you get his perspective as well, which in the beginning of the book, if I'm being honest, I liked him, but he wasn't my favorite. He wasn't the most interested. I was really interested in Nari's perspective and her point of view, and then we got Ali's, which I was sort of just like, what is this? And I ended up like loving him by the end of the book. So second book comes out, I think January something, 2019, which I'm excited for, and if I could get the money, I want to pre-order it because I really enjoyed the book. I think I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars. Queens of Geek is about these 3 best friends. 2, you get the perspective of. 1, her name is Charlie. She is, I think, Chinese, fully Chinese, but grew up in Australia, and she is a YouTuber, a YouTube star, and becomes a film star, and she has like this public relationship that sort of backfires. The book sort of covers her trying to deal with the aftermath of public relationships, and then her best friend Taylor, who is very, very, very socially anxious, and she is more overweight from the descriptions that I think I read, and then her best friend Jamie, who she might have a romantic interest in. So the 3 of them end up going to this convention called SuperCon. You can see I talk with my hands a lot, I'm sorry. They are trying to make the best of it, have this great time, and Taylor's obsessed with the idea of meeting her favorite author, and she thinks that if she could talk to her favorite author, meet her face to face, that she will have what it takes, because she lives in such an anxious mindset that it could be hard for her to go through everyday life. It's a really, really interesting read. And while I did like Taylor, and I'm not as socially anxious as she is, and so in a lot of ways it was hard for me to relate, to be honest. Some of the writing style was a little bit hard, but I will hopefully review that, and then you guys will be able to get a full review from me on that, and it was a 3.5 out of 5 for me on that. Scythe and Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman were also really good books. I think I rated them really high at first, and I think I want to actually take down my, not take down my review, but lower the star count. So Scythe, I think I would give a really strong 3.5 out of 5, and I think I give Thunderhead a 4 out of 5. And when I first read the books, I gave Scythe a 4 and Thunderhead a 5 out of 5, I believe. And I think I was being a little bit too generous. I still think the books are really good. Whether or not they're as amazing as everyone hypes them up to be, I don't know. I do think the sequel is better. I think the first book is not amazing after looking into it. After really sitting down and thinking on it. Scythe is about this dystopian era where it's set in the future, and in this future we don't die anymore. Humans have finally mastered immortality, but because of birth rates and other general senses of overpopulation, death still needs to happen with humanity. So a select few people kill humans for the sake of keeping down death count at a plausible rate. It's supposed to be people who are very unbiased and people who still hold the social constraint of the fact that killing is bad. So it's not just given. You follow 2 perspectives, if I recall. I read this at the very beginning of 2018. There you go. You follow Rowan and Citra, as they have both been chosen to become apprentices to become a scythe. At the end, due to some gruesome changes to rules of who will get in and who will not, one of them will be allowed to pass, one of them will have to fail, and whoever fails and whoever passes, one will become a scythe, and one, I think, is supposed to be sentenced to death. Yeah. So these teens must master the art of taking life, knowing that the consequence of failure could mean losing their own. So yeah, and that's sort of what you fight through in the first book. Spoilers here, I guess, and I'll put a little thing up that says spoiler, and when that goes down, if you haven't read the book, just don't listen during them. So spoiler, the romance is very forced, and I did not like the romance at all, actually. I thought it would have been a wonderful book if there was more direction with the characters. The 2 main characters, at least. There were the 2 head sides that you get to meet, Marie Curry and, oh god, I'm blanking on his name, the other one. They were really interesting to me. I really liked them. I even liked the villains in the book pretty well, but Rowan and Citra really fell flat for me. They were not interesting characters, and then the romance was just so forced and a struggle, and I was just super frustrated. Okay, so spoilers over. I don't want to talk about it in case people don't know, but I think it's gonna be super obvious because it's very heavy-handed. Anyways, the second book, Thunderhead, I thought was a lot better because I fell in love with the idea of the Thunderhead, which is sort of like this AI who like talks to everyone but can't talk to size because of the Thunderhead should not have enough power to decide who lives and who dies. You know, scary AI, scary robots. You don't know what's gonna happen. I thought it was really interesting because you get like little blips and little like perspectives from the Thunderhead in the second book, and that really got me. I really liked it. There's some really interesting phrasing in the second book that I feel like it's really relevant in today's society, especially depending on your thoughts about today's politics. I thought it was really interesting, and so I would give that a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, yeah, so A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, I rated 4 out of 5. Okay, so this book was interesting. So I went into this book not really knowing much about it, besides the fact that I loved the name and I loved the cover art. I think it's beautiful. And I was super fascinated by like this historical fiction with a little bit of like fantastical presences, you know, just enough for the people who don't like stuff that's not fantasy, which is like me. I like stuff that's not in the real world very often. But it's this guy, I think his name is Monty, if I remember correctly, and he's sort of like pretty high on the class system of England. And before he's supposed to take over his like father's estate, he goes on this like one big like gallivanting trip across Europe, which ends up getting him in more trouble than he already was expected. He ends up bringing his sister, who I think she's going to star in the sequel, which I'm really excited for, and then he and his main love interest is Percy. Monty's bisexual, which I thought was really interesting to have a bisexual representation in a time when bisexuality, there was no name for it, which I thought was really interesting. And Percy, I think, is gay. Percy is a person of color. I believe he's mixed. I believe he's like white and black ethnicity. I might be wrong. It was really cool to hear his perspective too in this time period where racism was still very prevalent also. And especially then with Monty obviously having this like huge crush on his best friend Percy, who is not only his best friend and a guy, but also a person of color. And so he gets sort of mistreated, or often, what's the word for it? He gets scorned a lot. Anyways, I really liked the book, and I definitely recommend it. I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars, which is hard for me to give. So I liked it. I thought it was really good. I would definitely reread it again. Oh. And then I read A Darker Shade of Magic by V. Schwab. Oh, I rated that book 2 out of 5 stars. I think I'm being generous with the 2 stars. The world building was on point. It was so good. The world building really got me into the book. But that book took me like a month and a half, 2 months to read because I could not get into it. I did not like the book. The characters were blasé. They were sort of a wet mop for me. I did not like them. I wanted to like them. I wanted to like the book so much because London and magic and everything you tell me about this book is something that I would obsessively love. I love dark fantasies and all this kind of stuff. And I just sat there going, okay, give me something to work with, please. I might make a random video on it, but I feel like Thoughts on Tomes, which I'll like link her down below, and like this review, I think she really sums up my thoughts on it. And there is the side character, I can't remember his name, he's the prince, and he was the character I was the most interested in. Of course, you don't get much of him. But Kel was okay, but like, he's supposed to be this like really like, oh, last of my race, really strong character, and he was there. He did some stuff, and yeah, that's Kel. And then let's not talk about whatever her name is, the like other character. I'm sorry, I didn't like her. I heard the second book gets potentially worse, and supposedly the third book is phenomenal, and I don't know if I'm going to finish the series, so that might be DNF'd. But I did finish the first book. We'll see in time. So those are the books I read in 2018. Not a lot, I will be completely honest. I haven't read a lot, and again, it was really hard being in Japan and having books that I couldn't get. I couldn't get a lot of English literature, and so I'll talk about what I'm working on right now. Go back. So I am currently reading Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. So far, so good. I'm not very far. A lot of people say if you love Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which is my favorite duology, that I like it. So I'm super excited for it. The wood open to where I am. I'm on chapter 4, page 47 to 536. So I'm not far. But it's super good so far. I'm excited for it. I'm curious to see where this goes. And then I decided to also pick up Hamlet. I took this book from my high school. My English teacher gave it to me, so I did not steal it. I was sort of having a knackering for Shakespeare, and I wanted to reread this one. This is my favorite Shakespearean play, so I'm sort of rereading it. I'm trying to remember, like, the general gist of how Hamlet was. I forgot how, like, the dramatic plays are. That sounds really, like, naive and stupid to say, but, like, I forgot how dramatic Shakespeare writing is. But I'm not far. I'm, like, a few pages in since I just picked it up. But yeah, I'm reading that. Along with that, I went to the library and picked up The Life and Times of William Shakespeare by Peter Levy. I don't know much about it, but I'm rereading Shakespeare books again. I have a speech impediment. I apologize. And I wanted to learn more about him because I know there's a lot of talk about him being a very flamboyantly fascinating person. So I have this book to read. We'll see if I actually get to that one. I have more books on my Kindle, which I think I'll go through first because I don't have them in physical form. So I want to finish my book that I'm reading, Children of Blood and Bone, and I want to finish Hamlet first. And then I have Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings. I'm very hesitant to start this book, especially something that's so beloved, and I'm hoping I can read it and will potentially do a review on it. I have it down to do a review once I read the book. We'll see. I feel like I don't need to explain what that book is about since I feel like almost everyone knows or has read that book. I also have A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, which I think will be, besides Hamlet, my next classical literature I would like to endeavor to read because I've always wanted to read Dickens. I hear you either love or you hate Dickens, and I think I might love him. I'm hoping to try and get my brain back into reading analytically everything. So I'm trying to read like Children of Blood and Bone sort of analytically as well. I'm like taking more notes so I can actually come back with a good review and actual feedback in comparison to just being like, I liked it. So we'll see how it goes. I also have on the list Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst, which I believe is about a fire-weaving bisexual or lesbian like princess. It's something like that. I've heard it's really good. I know very little about it. I'm like 3 pages in. I don't know. That's on my to be read. And then I have the book Jacobi by William Ritter, which was recommended by a friend of mine. Like, information itself says it's a cross between Sherlock Holmes and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which sounds amazing. So I have that book to be read as well. I have some other books on here. Whether or not it's like a book I really want to read and is on my to be read is up for debate. So that's what's on my Kindle right now. Woo! Okay. So the next of my to be reads. So I have a whole bunch of books that I would like to read or reread by the end of 2018. We'll see how I do. Some of them are quite thick. I think the next ones I'm really interested in reading is I love Brent Weeks. I've talked about him a lot. So I want to give a full and good try to Brent Weeks' Black Prism. This is the first book of the Lightbringer series, I'm going to say. And it's called The Black Prism. I'll be starting this over again to reread. And yeah, it sounds interesting. It's a fantastical world. I'll just read from the back since I don't know much about it. Guile is the Prism, the most powerful man in the world. He is high priest and emperor. A man whose power, wit, and charm are all that preserves a tenuous peace. Yet prisms never last, and Guile knows exactly how long he has left to live. When Guile discovers he has a son, born in a far kingdom after the war that put him in power, he must decide how much he's willing to pay to protect a secret that could tear his world apart. And that's that. I think you primarily read from the perspective of Kip, which I think is his son. So I'm excited to read this, and I think I might be next. So yeah, I'm hoping to read this. I'm really excited for it. It's quite big for the first book. We'll see. This book, which I'm hoping to read, is sort of like a book club with my friend. We have an Instagram, which I can actually put in the description below. It's between my dear friend Corinne and me, and we were going to read this book called Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. There's been a lot of really great reviews on it. To be honest, it's not really my cup of tea. This isn't something I would normally pick up, but I did like the first book of Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I had the second book to read, but I don't remember the first book. I have to read a summary on the first book to see if I can move this around. Sorry, I talk in my hands. And so I want to reread that before I get into the second book again. But I've heard good things about this. I started reading it aloud in an Irish accent for no reason at all, but yeah, that was sort of fun. Yeah, it's a fantasy world. It's weird, I think. It sounds interesting. This isn't something I would normally pick up to read myself, but I thought the cover was beautiful. Heard great things, heard a lot of stuff about Laini Taylor, and then my friend and I want to read it together, so it gives me more reason to read it. And besides, I like stepping outside of my comfort zone for the most part, so this is on my to be read. For another classical literature book that I read back in high school that I wanted to reread again, is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I also really want to read Roughing It by Mark Twain, but I can't find my copy. I think I might have loaned it to someone. But I remember reading this book, and I think I'm not a big fan of John Steinbeck, to be honest. I really hate his short story, like novella, called The Pearl. I despise that book. Mice and Men was okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. But I remember thinking this book was very fascinating, called East of Eden, with the difference between the whole biblical references. And I'm not a religious person in any form of the word personally, so I look at it from a very basic standpoint on biblical references, and primarily like to look at it from a metaphorical and almost like a lyrical value. But I want to reread this book. I remember thinking it was very interesting. This is how much to be read, or to be reread. I've read the book before. It's just been a while. I have J. Kristoff's Nevernight. This is book 1. So I've heard this book's really good. I know, again, nothing about it. I have a bookmark placed in here, but I don't think I've read anything. Yeah, no, I am on chapter 1. I have, if you guys have read Six of Crows of Crooked Kingdom, I have a little, oh my god, I love Jesper. He's so cute. I need to find where I put Kaz. I think Kaz might be in another book of mine, and I can't find it. A lot of my books got moved. A lot of the books I had been reading got moved, and they're in boxes. So some of them are deformed. This one was so deformed because it was outside for the entire year I was in Japan. I've heard good things about this book. Again, I love books about assassins. This might be right up my alley. I'm super excited to read it. I don't really know much about it. Daughter of an executed traitor, Mia Corvier is barely able to escape her father's failed rebellion with her life. Alone and friendless, she hides in a city built from the bones of a dead god, hunted by the Senate and her father's former comrades. But her gift for speaking with the shadows leads her to the door of a retired killer and a future she never imagined. Now Mia is apprenticed to the deadliest flock of assassins in the entire republic, the Red Church. If she bests her fellow students in contests of steel, poison, subtle arts, she'll be inducted among the blades of the Lady of Blessed Murder, and one step closer to the vengeance she desires. But a killer is looser than the church's halls. The bloody secrets of Mia's past return to haunt her, and a plot to bring down the entire congregation is unfolding in the shadows she so loves. Will she even survive the initiation, let alone her revenge? I don't know. It sounds really interesting. So this is much to be read. More books! I have so many books. I might not get through all these, but my Goodreads book challenge is 25, I think, so we'll see. I have a YA contemporary, I believe, called Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. A very beloved book, and I know Rainbow Rowell is very, very, very beloved. I've heard really great things. I like cute romances, and I've heard this is a cute one. To be honest, I started the book after I finished The Sun Is Also a Star. I really liked her writing style, and I do find this writing style to not be as much of something I like, to be honest. It's not bad, I just have to get into it, and I think I have to be in the mood for it. So I'm definitely going to try and sit down and give this another shot and actually start this over and read it. So yeah, this is my to be read. I feel like everyone knows about this book. It's a little love story between two misfits. One person is an outsider. She has red hair, wrong clothes. The guy, Park, I don't know how to explain him. But yeah, story of two star-crossed 16-year-olds, smart enough to know that first love never lasts, but brave and desperate enough to try. This is a young adult book I want to try, but I have to be in the mood for contemporary. Continuing down the line, I have a lot of Greek books. So I have a Greek Tragedies Volume 1. I don't think there's an author. I think it's a lot of people. There's David Green and Richmond Lattimore, who are the editors. And a whole bunch of different books. I don't know much about it, but I like Greek tragedies, and I think I've read Oedipus the King, but I'm excited to read this again. Or read through these, because I think they're fun. I need to learn how to pronounce Greek names. That's one thing. To continue with the Greek, I have The Odyssey, which I have bought, and I am excited to read the full unabridged version of. I think I've read the full unabridged version once before, or at least I said it in. I can't 100% remember. Of course, it's The Odyssey by Homer. It's verse translation by Ellen Mandelbaum. Mandelbaum. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a very interesting book in my mind about the Greek hero Odysseus's journeys home from the Trojan War, and all the his loyal wife Penelope, while he's getting allured and getting tempted by, I think it was a Circe, yeah. Cyclops, the Isle of Circe, the Cave of Cyclops, trying to survive storms of shipwrecks, and all of this stuff to try and get back home. And I would like to read the full unabridged version, because I know for sure I've read the abridged version. I think I've read this version before. We'll see. This is going to be interesting. I would like to get to it. It's actually not that long. It's just really thick, because having to remember how they speak, trying to fully understand the book, and not just spark noted along the way, which I might do. I might have spark notes up while I read, like, play by play, to get a feel for, like, text by text and see what I think compared to what other people think. We'll see. This book's quite popular, and it's popular among, you know, high school students having to read it. So yeah, that'll be fun. I have The Iliad by Homer. I think it was translated by Robert Fagles? Fagles? I can't pronounce that, sorry. Yeah, this is the Iliad. I believe it's about, oh goodness gracious, Achilles, yeah, during the Trojan War. And I've tried to read this before. Oh god, this is gonna be a hard one to get through, and I know it. But I want to read the Iliad, and again, maybe this will be something I spark note alongside of it, just so I can get a full play-by-play and get a full feel of the book. But yeah, the Iliad by Homer. I don't know when I'll get to this. I would like to get to it before the end of the year, along with the Odyssey. But we'll see. So here's 2 Greek big tragedies for me to read. My pile is tilting. I have a reread of a book I read when I was young, and it was a friend of mine's like favorite book. So it's like more nostalgic than anything, and it's called Tithe. It's by Holly Black, which she's still quite prominent in today. So literature from what I'm seeing. And I actually have some problems with how Holly Black's writing now, so I would like to reread this book because of how much my best friend and I loved it before, just to see how I feel about it now, and give, like, I don't know if I'll give a review, but I want you to read it to see how I feel. That's pretty much that. If you don't know what the book is, I'll read from the back. It's In the Realm of Fairy, F-A-E-R-I-E. 16-year-old Kay is a modern nomad. Fierce and independent, she drifts from place to place with her mother's rock band until an ominous attack forces Kay back to her childhood home. There, amid the blue-collar New Jersey backdrop, Kay finds herself an unwilling pawn in an ancient and violent power struggle between 2 rival fairy kingdoms, a struggle that could very well mean her death. So yeah, I don't know. I know I liked this kind of books a lot more when I was in high school and middle grade. I never spoke like that until I had a booktube. Middle school, junior high school. To continue on with the young adult, I have An Ember in the Ashes by Sabah Tahir, I think is how you pronounce the name. I'm sorry if I pronounced her name wrong. I've heard really great things about this book. This sounds absolutely beautiful. I definitely have to be in a mood, I think, to read this, but I've heard really great things about it, and I've heard great things about Sabah Tahir's writing style, so I want to read it, and I think I'm going to try to do a review on this, I think, when I get to it. So, in case you don't know, I'll read from the back. Leia is a slave, Elias is a soldier, neither is free. Under the martial empire, defiance is met with death. Leia and her family do not challenge the empire. They've seen what happens to those who do. But when Leia's brother is arrested for treason, she is forced to make a decision. In exchange for help from rebels who promise to rescue her brother, she will risk her life to spy for them from within the empire's greatest military academy. There, Leia meets Elias, the school's finest soldier, and secretly its most unwilling. He and Leia will soon realize that their destinies are intertwined, and that their choices will change the fate of the empire itself. It sounds really good. I'm actually really excited for this book. I have high hopes and high expectations, and I hope they are not burned. I hope I don't become an ember in the ashes. I hope I actually like it. I really, really do. Also, saying high hopes makes me want to sing Panic at the Disco. Sorry. 2 more books, and they are not young adult. They're, I don't even know what to call them. Inspirational reads, like maybe not nonfiction. I don't really know how nonfiction these are, to be honest. But the first one is called Alex and Me, and it's about a scientist and a parrot who uncover the hidden world of animal intelligence and form a deep bond in the process. So I love animals, and I was originally going to go to university for animal behavior. I am no longer currently in university, but when I was in university, I ended up changing my major to linguistics. I'm obsessed with languages. I'm obsessed with reading and how the world works with language and where language came from and history of languages. I could talk about it forever, but I still find animal behavior very interesting, and so I think this could be really interesting. So I have this book to read. I was given this by a family friend, I believe, before moving to Japan, and now I actually want to sit down and give it a try and read it. And then I have another book that was given to me by a family friend, and it's called Talent is Never Enough by John C. Maxwell. Discover the choices that would take you beyond your talent. I like the idea of reading more inspirational books. I like being able to read more about like stuff that's not just like directly like, oh, you're so amazing. It doesn't give you a lot on the back, to be honest. So I want to read this and sort of see what it's like, and if it's anything of interest, I will talk to you guys about it. Otherwise, I'll be reading this in my spare time. And that's all the books. Okay, so to wrap up, I have a whole bunch of books I'm hoping to read by end of 2018. So that's sort of what I'm planning, and I guess that's my future right now of reading. Thank you so much for sitting here listening to me talk for so long. Without a further ado, I'm gonna end this here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, how does everyone do this? I feel so awkward doing this. If you like this video, press the like button. If you want to continue watching more content I make, subscribe. It'd be awesome to have you guys around, and I'm hoping to make a video weekly, but we will see, and I will hopefully be back next week with another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I still haven't figured out an outro for my booktube. I don't really know what to do here. Follow me on Instagram. I need to actually post something on Instagram. I have a Twitter. Please follow me on Twitter. I've been posting more on there. It's been so great to have you guys follow me. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! I have 45 minutes of footage. Oh my god, this is gonna take forever for me to edit.